Good morning. It's been a strange morning. I don't know if you saw it, but Linda Daniel recorded a sunrise service in her house this morning. She shared some devotionals out of an AA companion book, Serenity, and then she played Up from the Grave He Arose. And I listened and wept. Not because I'm in doubt of the words or the meaning or the theology, but I am missing what it means to be together and worship. We've been doing this for a month. And it's hard. We are communal creatures. We need other people's input. We need other perspectives to help us figure out whether we're right or wrong or not. that I don't know if you're feeling the same way I am this morning. There's also a beautiful sunrise this morning, as it's supposed to be on Easter morning. FUM has got a site on Facebook where they're asking people to share pictures of sunrises from all over the globe. And there's a couple from Kenya and East Africa, and some from North Carolina, and a couple from here in Muncie, and then there's some in Iowa so far this morning. And in some ways, we are all together, whether we're in the same room or the same parking lot or the same building. We are all doing things together, not together. This week, we've gotten daily or every other day updates about the pastor in Iowa who has coronavirus. And yesterday there was an update that he was sitting on the side of the bed, and the family got to see pictures of him moving his legs and moving his arms. He's still intubated. He still has the ventilator on, and if he can sit up in bed today, the ventilator will come out, and they'll see what happens from there. But that is good news and a bright spot, and that his wife finished her update by saying this would be a wonderful Easter blessing. I found out this week that Frank and Joanne are fasting for the remainder of the coronavirus. I asked about grocery shopping again on Friday, and Frank replied, "Don't worry about us. We're gonna fast for the remainder of this." So we'll see how Frank and Joanne do. We can add them to our list of prayers. Though we are separate, we are not apart. It's a picture of the light shining into an empty tomb. And I think in some ways that was sort of the idea for the sunrise pictures. Not that our homes are empty tombs, but our homes are places of solitude, not places that are absent of love and caring. But they're hard. They're not normal, quote unquote, whatever that is. So this Easter message is going to come from the book that we've been reading in Bible study, whether you know it or know it or not. You've been hearing a bit from this book in sermons, not necessarily the recorded ones, but in previous live renditions of these things. Some of the stuff that we've been talking about has been coming out. So, The Idolatry of God by Peter Rollins. So we're going to be talking about what it means to live a resurrection life. One of the things that it means to live a resurrection life is to experience the crucifixion. And that means when we experience the crucifixion, we lose all of the supports that would protect us from a direct confrontation with the world and with ourselves. That the crucifixion, the moment that Jesus spent on the cross, he looked around and all of the things that lifted up, buoyed him, had been taken away. His protection as the Son of God, his family was gone, his community was gone, his government was gone. He was alone, miserable, suffering on the cross, crying out, "Why have you forsaken me?" In our in our wonderfully accommodated homes, most of us, we are not forsaken, and often we are not alone. Though some of us in our community are alone in their homes, and we remember them. We remember the gift they're giving us. We remember the purpose for their isolation. And we draw out courage in that purpose. But all of these things that protect us, our ability to produce things, our ability to do things, our ability to engage with people and interact in a physical, present reality, those kinds of things are gone. And so we aren't the people that we were a month and a half ago. We aren't connected to the same kind of foundational undergirding. We don't get to gather together for Easter morning and remember together. We don't get to say, "He has risen," and then we get to say, "He has risen indeed," in reply. That tradition is gone. We are stripped of all the guarantees and fantasies that previously marked our experience. We are stripped from our familiar ways in which we have the opportunity to understand productivity and purpose. I was thinking of this image, and I'm not sure exactly where this comes from, but Jesus, as he died on the cross, and the sky darkened at about 3 p.m., and the curtain in the temple was torn from top to bottom, and people went in, and somebody said there was nothing in there, not even the socks that we lost in the dryer. But as we go into that place, of the presence of the holy God, we are there. And in some ways, that's why these moments can be difficult, is because when we look around in that most holy place, the thing that we are left with is us. And it's the thing that we need to grapple with. It's the thing that we need to wrestle with. It's the thing we need to come to terms with. Eternal life is thus fundamentally a transformation in the very way we exist in the present. The present moment contains past and future. The secret of transformation is in the way we handle this very moment. The resurrection is about not what's to come and not what is past, but is what is right now. Several years ago, Kristen and I were driving to a wedding with some friends of ours, and they had brought along their firstborn. Kristen was pregnant, and she was pregnant with their second, and we're somewhere near Grand Rapids, Michigan, was where the wedding was, and we were on our way up north in Michigan, and I did something, and our friend who says, I wanted you to be a little more careful with your driving because my daughter is here. And I didn't say this out loud, but I thought, I'm valuable cargo. I'm not playing around with my life either. We are all valuable cargo. We're all precious. And there may be things about us that we aren't happy with or don't want to spend time with, would rather they didn't exist. But all of that is as precious and valuable as every other bit of us. And that is sometimes where the darkness comes from. The forced interaction that we desperately try to avoid. Resurrection is not some form of ascension in which we are transported out of our immediate problems or ripped away from our humanity and all its frailty. This is not this lifted up in the sky and we're going away. That's not resurrection. It is, if the crucifixion marks the moment of darkness, and the resurrection is the very act of living fully into the darkness and saying yes to it. Yes, we have this moment. This is our reality. And we can live fully into it by being grateful, having a sense of gratitude, of saying, yes, this too is purposeful and useful and wonderful and a gift. The practice of resurrection is an intentional, deliberate decision to believe and participate in resurrection life. Life out of death, life that trumps death, life that is the last word, Jesus life. Life that is invested, is embroiled in the truth that will set us free. The reality of the present moment. From the beginning, we have sought to become like God. Humanity has sought to become like God. The incarnation tells us if we want to be like God, the experience of Jesus on this earth, then we must courageously and unreservedly embrace our humanity. We must be as Jesus was and be fully that which we were created to be. And it is uncomfortable. There's an illustration in the book that's not in this, is that in the fullness of Jesus' humanity isn't an identification with us. It is an illustration of how far away from humanity we have come when we aren't willing to be open and honest with ourselves. In the resurrection, we no longer approach God as an object to be loved, but rather God is present in the very act of loving. As we engage across digital formats, through video, through other ways of interaction, email, we need to engage lovingly so that the presence of God is made real in the moment of engagement. We speak in such a way that others love to listen to you. You listen in such a way that others love to speak to you, that we engage, we love, we create the presence of God in the moments of engagement and relationship. We do that with ourselves. We speak to and about ourselves in a way in which we feel and experience the presence of love, the presence of God. Happiness, life, aliveness is not found in renouncing the world and pointing to our desire to the divine, but rather God is love to the work of love itself. The other whom we love is not a mystery revealed to us, but a mystery we are privileged to touch. I recorded a video of the sanctuary earlier, looking around at the empty space. Thinking of all the privileges to touch. This is Fox's admonition of that process of engaging mystery. Walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of God and everyone. Is that there's the very real, yes, there is that of God in everyone, and also we are called to engage with it. Love's presence cannot be described as existing, but rather is that which calls others into existence. Unconditional love really exists in each of us. It is part of our deep inner being. It is not so much an active emotion as a state of being. It is not, I love you for this or that reason, not, I love you for if you love me. It's love for no reason, love without an object. It's not love because God said I have to. It's love because I love. Love does not say, I am sublime, I am wonderful, I am glorious. Love humbly points to others and whispers, they are sublime, they are beautiful, and they are glorious. Yesterday in the afternoon or evening, Cora wanted to go hang out on our roof. Kristen said that when she came back toward the house from somewhere, she took a picture of Cora sitting on the peak of our roof. And she texted it to her and said that she understood that Cora saw the world from a different perspective, and she valued that perspective. Beautiful. Glorious. In the very mode of seeing which raises the suffering, broken, and excluded to the level of the beautiful, sublime, and absolute, God is present. In the resurrection, God is not something we encounter directly, but God is that which transforms how we experience everything. There is something beautiful about all scars, whatever nature. A scar means the hurt is over, the wound is closed and healed and done with. That we would sometimes prefer that people not know we have scars. I have some physical scars. Almost, for a while, almost every one of my fingers had a scar on it of some kind. And none of them are grandiose stories. Most of them involve stupidity. Some of our wounds don't have visible scars. The process of dealing with pain, recovering and growing and healing is love. God is the name we give to the way of living in which we experience the world as worthy of living for, fighting for, and dying for. Love, in our context, is the ability to stay where we are supposed to be. Love says, I am going to do this because you all are worth fighting for. And the fight feels weird because we're not physically grappling with anything. We're not overcoming. We're not prevailing. We are sitting. We're not used to that kind of contest. All of the most vulnerable in our world are worth fighting for. In the resurrection, we move from loving because God says we have to in order to get into heaven toward loving as its own reward. That I don't love you so that I can get into heaven. I love you because you're lovely. Love seeks one thing only, the good of the loved one loved. It leaves all the other secondary effects to take care of themselves. Love, therefore, is its own reward. Resurrection faith is a way of living in love, a love which embraces existence not because it is perfect, but because it is beautiful in the midst of its very imperfection. We had a Bibi Barami inspired Afghan dinner last night, and we had Afghan chicken and spinach and rice and Afghan bread, and for dessert we had Bibi's famous Afghan cookies. And Josiah got his cookies and he took a couple bites of them and left them on the table, and he went to the kitchen to get something. I think he got tea, and he was dipping his cookies in his tea, and Olivia commented that, look what he's doing to his tea. And Josiah misheard, and he said, of course I'm biting them with my teeth. I can't bite them with my gums. Which obviously meant I wanted to find out if you could bite them with your gums. And turns out you can eat those cookies. Bite them with your gums. And the moment after a month in quarantine was a moment filled with joy and laughter. Not because it was perfect, but because it was imperfect. We no longer need to hide from our sadness and repress it. Rather, we can confront it and work through it. Linda played, and I wept. But it was a good thing. I don't know that there was a Sunday at Raysville when the song leader, who was essentially the heart of that meeting, passed away at about 4:30 on a Sunday morning, and I went over there and spent the morning with the family until it was time to come and have church. And she was a song leader, and so we sang. What our normal routine was to sing songs, but our hearts were filled with sorrow, and so we sang the songs horribly, as best we could. And it was beautiful. The invitation is to wade into the water. And we want the water to be cool and refreshing. A warm, sunny beach with waves lapping over us, cooling us off, laughter in the air. The reality is much different than that. Vacations are vacations and life is life. And in life, God is going to trouble the water. But God is found not in the trouble, but in the love engaged in relationship, where care happens, where joy happens, where peace happens. The event of the resurrection opens a religionless faith in which we are able to embrace the world and ourselves without security. There's some of the little flowers growing in our woods. Somebody is worried that the flowers will open up and feel the tension in the air and take it into themselves and wither. The daffodils don't care. Flowers don't care. Whether they're programming, whether they're born to bloom in a day and wither and die, they rise up and give full force of their beauty for the time that they have. Living into the moment, unafraid, unabashed. Resurrection is affirmed where people are gathered together in love, and it is testified to where the sick are healed, the starving fed, where those who dwell in death are raised into life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet he shall live. Resurrection life demands that we experience the darkness. If we are going to live, we must suffer that which must be dark and dead. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. This moment, we are given the opportunity to let die what needs to die, to cultivate what needs to grow, to intentionally invest in the beauty, to care, to prune, to allow God to do a work in us. Jesus said, He is the resurrection. In order to experience that resurrection, we have to experience the darkness.